how do you get your people to run through a wall for you? Because followship is different than leadership. Leadership is what you do for your people. You lead. Followship is very much out of your control. It's driven by how you do run things.
Iron fist. That was my management style in the restaurant business because that's what I learned. How they responded to me was if I saw a group of them walking through, they would part like the Red Sea. So it sounded really good. I'm a tough, badass guy, but really what I learned was I had a lot of talent in the room that I wasn't taking advantage of.
I can be that drill sergeant. Let me assure you, my people are going to be totally dependent on me, or they're going to totally resent me and be independent. So there's nothing I can do to help them. Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Wisdom of Wrench podcast. My name is Kevin Comerford, and we are wrapping up a really cool series. This is part 3 of a series called The 3 Talents Exceptional Leaders Must Continually Develop in a Growing Organization. So far, we've already talked about, number 1, have courage. Number 2 was take responsibility. And today, we'll be talking about part 3, which is build fellowship. As always, I'm joined in studio with my co-host, Amanda Meyer. Hello, Amanda.
What?
Nice to have you here as always. Looking forward to doing this podcast as always with you. I also have Ray Diaz. Hello, Ray.
Hello, Kevin.
Ray's been with us on part 1 and part 2. And if you want to hear all about Ray, go back to part 1. But this guy's the real deal. He's the real deal. This whole subject we built around a concept that has shared inside the organization that he and I have been a part of for over 30 years. I worked together for over 30 years. It's just it's been incredible, and we're gonna jump right into it because this topic, which is these 3 talents that exceptional leaders must continue to develop, is so powerful and so essential as we continue to grow as an organization with Wrench. Wrench has done incredible things so far. The reality is the only way to continue to make Wrench better is to make the people inside Wrench better. And that's what these podcasts, and that's what specifically this series is all about. How to make you, all the exceptional leaders that we have out there in Wrench, even better by giving them some of these gifts around the top 3 talents that you need. So let's jump in. Building Followship or build Followship. So when I think of build Followship, what comes to mind for me is how do you get your people to run through a wall for you? How do you get people to do heroic things for you, for the organization, based on who you are as a leader? So I know you've got a lot of thoughts about this, Amanda.
I do.
And we're going to go right to you on this one.
I love it. I'm excited to talk about this one a lot because the first 2 parts that we discussed, have courage and take responsibility, they really lead to this. If you do those first 2 things well, this does become a lot easier. But when I think about building Followship, if I want my people to be willing to run through a wall for me, I know that I have to be willing to run through a wall for them. That's probably my biggest thought on that in terms of how I feel about this last part. And in my experience, that takes courage. You have to take responsibility, and you have to be willing to do great things for your people and prove to them that you are worthy as their leader. We talked a lot about worth, right? And so I know in my experience, the story I always think about is Stephanie, who I've worked with the whole 11 years I've been here. So we started only 2 months apart. And Stephanie was an interesting character when she first started. She was definitely a fit in our business, but she always had a little bit of trouble finding her niche. And one of the things that I consider so valuable about our relationship is that I think that we're both willing to go to great ends for each other. An easy example of that would be that Stephanie is such a passionate person. She cares so much about our company. Almost obnoxiously so. But you want that, right? You want people who care a lot. You want people that care that much, who are willing to be, that passionate about what they do. And someone that passionate, if you can't get them on the right seat on the bus, it can be a little self-destructive, because then they continue to funnel that passion towards being frustrated. And so that was a big challenge we had with Stephanie. She was constantly frustrated. She would, she'd have, just these fits of, we'll call them fits of passion. But she'd have a lot of trouble, enjoying her work despite caring so much. And so I find that the thing that I did for her the most was that I was patient with her in finding the right thing for her to do. And ultimately, because she knew so much about the business and cared so much and was so hardworking, one of the things that she does best is helping build our new departments and helping build our projects from the ground up. And so I remember the first time that I tried to move her from her position in the call center to doing like quality assurance for us, doing scorecards. She was objecting, again, is the word that I'll use. But I did say, this is going to be good for you. You're going to be great at this. So try it out with me. Let's see how it goes. And she was great at it. And then she was great at it and she didn't want to stop doing it. But I knew that she was going to get bored of it soon. And so I said, you know what I think that would be really good is that we're having some trouble with the MVP department. I'd love for you to work in the MVP department and just sort of get that started. So Stephanie moved to the MVP department, kicking and screaming a little bit, just saying, I like what I'm doing. I don't want to stop doing that. And ultimately, I said, just try it out for a while. Let's see how you do. Did great things with that. She's still my ultimate authority on MVP knowledge to this day. And that was 8 years ago. Wow. So she's doing that for a little while. A new opportunity comes up. We've got e-commerce that we're looking to launch, and we need a strong leader. We need to make sure that we're getting the right directives and the right mindsets in that department. I said, Stephanie, I think that you would be really good at this. You know the business so well. It touches all of the departments. You're tech savvy. And she goes, I don't want to do that. I'm doing this. And I'm like, just try it out for a little while with me. Just see how you do. She, of course, blows it away. Speed team is today, and again, she's still very involved, even though that was 5 years ago. It's funny because this last move that I had her make just in the last 6 months, we've really scaled up our plumbing department, and we needed help from a dispatch perspective, but I also knew that we needed help from an operational supports perspective. And I thought, who can do 2 jobs as their one job? Hey, Stephanie, would you be open to trying out? And for the first time, with no hesitation, she said, I will do it. I'm excited to help you with that. And she's kicking butt right now, I have to say. It is so great to watch her be so passionate about something, but also to help build a department like plumbing in its accelerated growth phase. And I know that she has run through walls for me over and over again and has done things she doesn't want to do and has gone outside her comfort zone when she doesn't want to, because I always have taken the time to be patient with her and help her find ways to be happy, and channel that passion and channel how much she cares into doing work that she really, really enjoys.
Well, I had the pleasure of having a front row seat with that relationship for about 9 of those 11 years.
Yeah.
And what I saw was Amanda, who was both firm yet fair. You were firm with her. You had accountability. You challenged her. You got her out of her comfort zone.
Yes.
So you were firm. You required her to get out on those skinny branches. Why do you get on the skinny branches?
That's where the fruit is.
Because that's where the fruit is. Yet you were fair. You were patient all along. You said it beautifully with what I saw as well. So I saw that. And no wonder this woman will run through a wall for you. Because fellowship is different than leadership. Leadership is, leadership is what your people do for you, right? You have to get your people to follow you. Leadership is what you do for your people. You lead. Fellowship is very much out of your control. It's driven by how you do run things.
Yeah. Ultimately, as managers, we produce nothing. And so we need our performers, our people that are doing the producing, we need them to do that. And having a great fellowship is just so key.
Yes. Yes. So I want to dig in a little bit because I think there's some key traits that a manager has to have in order to create fellowship. And one of the first ones that I'd love to talk about is the ability to be able to take the focus off yourself. And we've talked about it in previous podcasts in this series, which is this idea of being selfless. The ability, we talk about it, to be able to sit in the small chair, right? And allow your other people to sit in the big chair. What thoughts do you have on that, Ray? We're coming to you, baby.
Hey, spotlight's on them, right? So
Yes.
we really spotlight them. We talked earlier in earlier conversations about fanning their flame and making it all about them. And I think when we do that, and make sure that they feel acknowledged for their success and that we appreciate their success, that creates fellowship. I think another piece of that, because I really feel this topic today is really the glue that holds the whole thing together. I think you can talk about responsibility, you can talk about courage and all that, but the fellowship portion, once you bring all that together, the fellowship portion is the portion that holds everything together, because it's just the activity. Because I don't really have to. I run through a wall for somebody, or they'll run through a wall for me. Both, right? I'll ask somebody to take a hill. I don't even have to ask them to take the hill. I just say, we're going to take the hill, and we go, and they follow. And so that if you have that type of a team that will follow you, and I think about people for me in building this company that have been around for a long time. I think of David Sturgeon. I think of Stephen Dangson. These are people who have worked their way up from field positions and everything else, and their GMs and their VPs, and they always, for me, they were always the people that were coming along, that were helping me, and that would do anything for me, and still today would do anything for me or anybody on the team. So you develop that and that glue, and the organization continues to grow even without you. When we're long gone, it continues.
Yeah. So you said take the spotlight off you.
Mm-hmm. Let's put it on them.
Take the spotlight off you, put it on them.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, you've got to be skilled at a few things.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a great listener.
Absolutely.
And
ask great questions.
And you got to ask great questions. And when you ask great questions to your team members, what do you mean by that? What are they typically? What are those questions around?
Around them, around helping them. If they have, I can't. I've always learned that I'm never going to have all the answers for somebody, but I have to be a resource. So if I can ask the right questions and tactically take them through a process that helps them down some path of discovery somewhere that gets them where they want to be, if I can help them do that, then I've done my job. I feel I've gotten them to where they wanted to be. I've got a resource for them, and help them guide them to their goal.
Yeah. It's kind of along the same lines that people can figure it out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like my wife, she doesn't necessarily want me to solve the problem for her. She really wants me, in a lot of cases, just to listen and let her talk through it, because she's solving the problem in her own mind as she's talking it out to me. Or if I interject and I'm like, go do this, honey, go do that. she'd be like, stop it. Stop it. I want to just figure it out for myself.
Just listen.
Just listen. Yes.
Been there, Kevin.
Yes. It's true.
Not with your wife, with mine.
Yeah. And by the way, the same thing goes for me as well, that if, I'm talking through something with somebody, my mind is firing. My thoughts are firing. When my mouth is moving, my mind is firing, and I'm able to work through and come up and create. So it really is a gift that I'm giving my wife, that you're talking about giving your team members when you just listen.
And there was a time when I had to just listen to you, because in our early relationship, I don't know if you remember this or not, you had a lot of ideas. You wanted to do a lot of sharing with me. You'd come at me and you'd have a lot, and so I was learning, and I had to, and I would be the person that was probably a naysayer. And I had to learn to just noodle it a while. Just noodle it and let it sink in and be a good listener myself. So that was part of our relationship development.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Mm-hmm. And I think it was you that said to me, or somehow we came to this conclusion, that I'm going to puke all over you, Ray. I'm going to throw up ideas all over you. And what I had at first was expectations that, hey, Ray's going to pick all these ideas up and he's going to implement them, because that's Ray's job. His job is to pick up all my puke and implement. And the reality was, I forgot what I told you the next day.
You're on to something else.
I was on to something else. I forgot what to tell you. What you helped me with was you there was wording. Hey, Kevin, I just need to noodle this.
Correct.
And that was my indication, where I just need to know that, okay, Ray needs time to just process this, just settle down. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. It's a great reminder. Mm-hmm.
I'd love to touch on a couple of things.
Yeah. There. Bring us back, Amanda. Bring us back. Enough of this noodle guy.
Of course. Noodle man aside. So I find that talking it out is also a really good thought process for me. And a lot of people do find that helpful. But that's where, as a manager, you have to identify how your team member is going to learn the best. Because them being able to go down the path of discovery is the best way to develop your team member. So how do I ask the questions to my team member so that they can go down the path of discovery right? It takes a lot of patience, but it's super important. It's one of the best things that you can do for your team member. The other thing that you said
Can I talk about that real quick?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Let's hit it.
Well, you're talking about something that my mentor, Joe Cristiano, taught me early on, which was, and he called it the secret to management. Like, there's really a secret to management, Kevin. Even though you know the answer, still ask a question. Mm-hmm. You know the answer, Kevin. You could get there so fast. Yet what you're stealing is the learning that's going to go on with your fellow team member when they go down this road of discovery. Mm-hmm. And that takes a ton of discipline. Two things: discipline and patience.
Patience. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there asking my team member a question, or no, I'm sitting there. I know the answer, and I'm coming out of my skin, wanting to give them the answer. And Joe is in the back of my mind going, "No, Kevin, just be patient. Ask a question. Let them get there. Let them get there, because I want to take it from them."
Right.
And it's just my instinct. And so I have to go a bit against my instinct.
Yes.
In order to go ahead.
Oh, yeah. In part 2, we talk about take responsibility. And it can be easy to say, because I'm taking responsibility for it, I have to do it. But that's not the case. Don't rob your people, or rather give your people the opportunity to have that power and to take responsibility themselves. Giving them the opportunity to learn through that path of discovery will make them better people, and they will become great implementers of your goal.
Yeah. Because I can be that drill sergeant. do this, do this, do this, do this. Or I can be that coach, which is all about listening, all about asking great questions.
Yeah.
If I'm the drill sergeant, let me assure you, my people are going to be one of two things. They're going to be, they're going to be totally dependent on me. Okay, Kevin, whatever I do, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. They're going to be totally dependent. Or they're going to totally resent me and be independent. I don't need that guy. I shut that guy off. Every time he talks to me, I close him out. Now they're totally independent of me. So there's nothing I can do to help them. What I want, as we talked about in part 2 of this series, is I want interdependence. I want my people to say to me, hey, Kevin, this is the plan that I created. What do you think? When I get interdependence, I know that I've gotten my people to think. I know that and to think is to create. Now they've created. Now they've developed this idea, this plan, this idea, their goal, their dream manager. You're now becoming their dream manager, which, Ray, I want you to talk about that in a second. Mm-hmm. And they've got total interdependence. Now, when you give them interdependence, you're on the road to fellowship. Mm-hmm. You're on the road to fellowship. So, Ray, I know you're familiar with this book, Dream Manager.
I am, but before we get there, you just brought something up that is dear to my heart, and that's my own development and my own learning about what you just talked about. Because I was that, what'd you say, drill sergeant?
Drill sergeant.
I was more the iron fist. That was my management style in the restaurant business because that's what I learned. A lot of restaurants were just independently owned restaurants, and usually the owner had huge ego and ran them with an iron fist, and that's what I learned. And I often remember walking through the restaurant when I was the general manager of a restaurant, and how they responded to me was if I saw a group of them walking through, they would part like the Red Sea. Ray's coming through here, you know. So it sounded really good. I'm a tough, badass guy, but really, what I learned was I had a lot of talent in the room that I wasn't taking advantage of, because whenever you're a harsh, tough manager, yeah, you may get people to do things, but you'll never get their help. You'll never get their assistance. You'll never get their input. And what I've learned in my career in management style I have today is I used to call it the benevolent dictator, but really you do need input from your team. Your team's got to be part of decisions and planning that you're doing. But at the end of the day, as a leader, what we talked about earlier, you got to make the decision. You can't allow that just to fester and sit because you're wanting to have a democracy or something. You have to make those decisions eventually. So that's something that was really important. So also, go ahead.
I think keep rolling, babe.
I was just going to lead into that, and something I learned about 10 years ago reading a book called Turn the Ship Around was Intentional Leadership. One of my favorite books on leadership because it's a process that it's an activity that actually supports everything we're talking about when we talk about developing people. And the process is where, as a leader of the ship, as the captain of the ship, I asked managers to come to me with their ideas. So tell me what they were going to do. Hey, I plan to do X. I plan to do, I don't know if you've heard this before. Mm-hmm. And my response, sure. All my response at that point, and it worked really well with a lot of managers, was it was either very well, move on, go do it, or it allowed me to ask a few questions. And my questions were kind of like you said, they weren't necessarily that I didn't have the answer. I was kind of lead them down a path to make sure that they're good with what was going to happen when they implemented their plan. So intentional leadership is a great way to develop people. Yeah. So.
And a great way to build interdependence. Because what it sounds like, Ray, is they're putting the plan together.
Yes.
And they're really coming to you saying, so Ray, what do you think?
My job was just to say very well or ask questions. I would never say no. I should say rarely said no.
Yeah.
So
but if you were to meet, even if they did that plan and you were to say, oh, now you need to do this and do this, you're now getting back to that dependent mode. Like, I put together a plan, but then I need Ray to kind of fill in all the gaps, where if you just keep asking questions, you keep fostering that interdependence all the way through.
So if I did what you just said, it now becomes my plan. It's not their plan any longer. I just took over. So I have to let them roll. I have to somehow help them down a path that lets them roll with their plan. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. A lot of my plans, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So it's a wonderful learning experience and process. So.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of discipline. It takes discipline to be a great manager. And I think people are confused with this word discipline. If you know, the root word of discipline is disciple.
Disciple.
To coach, to guide, to love. Discipline? Well, disciple. So when you're disciplining, whether it's our team members or our kids, you're really coaching them, guiding them along a journey. And that's one of the things that I've learned with this whole idea about, because I was a drill sergeant too. Early in my career, I was harsh. I mean, I lost Cookie Silva, who she quit because I was so harsh. I remember I came down on her one day, and thank God she came back when we started Service Champions and came back on board. But it was 6 years without Cookie. And she had to see me grow up. She had to see me mature, because I was tough. I was a little bit crazy. I
want to talk about that.
I was a little bit nutty. Let me say nutty in my approach. My approach was terrible. And no wonder in the first 18 months of me taking over then my dad's company, I had 85% turnover. I was heading towards being on an island. And actually, okay, you're gonna have to go out and install this stuff, Kevin, because nobody wants to work at your company. You have zero followship. So I'm pretty good on this topic because I was so bad at it.
That's how we learn, right?
Wow. Yes. Yeah, it was what I learned, though. It was my approach. Like everything in life, if you change your approach, you change your outcome, and it was very painful. So those managers that are out there, one of the biggest things that Kevin had to drop, I had a big ego. It was fear of people really knowing who I was. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. I was faking it till you make it.
Woo.
Yeah.
If I may.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah, I was young. And really it was a front that I put up that, okay, I'm going to be this tough person. I was headed towards a heart attack, though. Headed towards a heart attack. And boy, oh boy, it was in 1995. I'm dating myself here, Ray. I'm dating myself. I was in my office, and it was after another really prominent team member had left. Robert Sanchez was his name. I know you remember him.
Do.
He was a great team member of ours, just a top performing technician.
My first ride along.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he had just said, I've had enough. Had enough of this guy. Me, pointing at me. This guy's incredibly high performing person. And I was in my office. It was a mahogany office. I was literally crying, overwhelmed, because I now had, at that time, 85% of the team had left, and I knew I needed help. And so that was the first time that I really got myself involved in seeing a life coach, call it whatever you want, shrink, psychologist. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful person that came into my life, John Tompkins, that really helped me. And we can get into details later on. It's another podcast we're going to do talking about words, because it was the words that I was speaking, the approach that I was taking, that was causing me to fail with this thing called Followship. Amanda, I know you got stuff on your mind. I can see it.
I have all kinds of things.
Go.
Well, this is a little bit of a tangent. I'm thinking about, you use the phrase iron fist, Ray, and just in your description, Kevin, I think a trap, it's a sneaky trap that managers will fall into even after years of discipline and not wanting to be an iron fist kind of dictator. It's what I call the 5 miles in the snow management style, which is, if you're familiar, when we make jokes about more advanced people, the phrase, I walked 5 miles in the snow to get to school and you don't need those, that
Yes,
kind of
older generations.
older generations.
Yes.
And the idea is that because
say
it was
Ray.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Did I just say that? You're a young man.
Or as I said earlier, he's rocking the gray on gray on gray
That's
today.
right.
Yes.
That's it.
But it's the idea that because you had to endure it, then other people can endure it. In management, how that shows up is perhaps you didn't have the same resources or the same type of manager as you are in that day and time, right? Maybe you had an iron fist manager and that's what your experience was coming up. Or maybe you didn't have the resources to get better at your job that people have now. And it can be really easy to say, well, I didn't have that, so I'm not going to provide it. Or I didn't have that kind of manager, or I had that kind of manager, so I can be that manager sometimes. It can be really easy to fall in this trap where you say, well, because I went through it, they can go through it. And that's a mindset that you want to catch early if you start doing it. I find myself slipping into that sometimes every now and then where I think, well, you know what, my manager was really tough. Kevin was tough on me. Like, they can handle it. If Kevin can say it to me, I can say it to them. But as I mentioned just earlier, people process things differently. You have to take the care and the patience to make sure that you're treating people the best way that you possibly can in that moment. So sorry, I did tangent there, but that's what was on my mind.
Good.
You asked.
That's good. That's good.
You remind me of Be Before You Get, because it's something you said there, because it's another process of developing these people, because people want to grow. They want more. They want, I remember a young man coming to me years ago at the old company, and I don't remember how the conversation started, but he wanted more money. And he wanted me to pay him more. And he said he'd start working harder and do more when I would pay him more. And I said, well, I'll pay you more when you start doing more. And, so Kevin years ago said, be before you get. I don't know where that came up, but it's always teaching, if you want to better yourself and do something more, then identify the position in the organization that you want to be in and go act as if you're that person. Mm-hmm. Because one day we're going to need one more of those.
Yeah.
I'm going to need another lead installer. So go act like a lead installer. So if I'm sitting around, I got to get another truck running. I need another lead installer. Who do you think I'm going to pick?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. That you're helping them. I think when people feel that, when your team feels that, they know that you're out acting in their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good.
If you want to grow, don't ask for money, ask for responsibility.
Yeah.
I love that.
I remember Kevin, a young man that wanted to be a lead installer, and you told him, it was, I can't remember his name, he passed away, the young Hispanic guy,
Sal Guerrero.
Sal Guerrero.
God
and
bless
he
his
wanted,
R.I.P.,
yes,
baby.
Yes. And he wanted to be an installer so bad, lead installer so bad. And we were at the old shop, the original shop. And the equipment was coming in and everything. And he's out there one day and he's at each piece of equipment and he's writing down the serial and model numbers down and everything. And he's writing, and I go, what are you doing? He says, well, Kevin told me that I had to write down every model number and everything. Then I had to write down exactly what it does. Is it 2-stage? Is it what SEER it was and everything else? So it was he was being before you get, and he was out. It was a small thing, but guess what? A few months later, he's a lead installer.
Yeah.
So.
He was memorizing the model numbers and doing the double check, like we would make sure and require that the lead installers.
But he was having to write down what it does.
Yeah.
It's a 2-stage variable speed and learning what the machine did versus just confirming the model number.
That's so
and
good.
you had told him to do that. So
that's so good.
Yep.
So what prevents a manager from building Followship? It's a 3-letter word, starts with an E, ends with an O.
EGO? EGO?
What is an ego? Please expand.
That's 2 G's.
Yeah.
Ego.
And you and I have had many conversations with managers over the years.
Managers, salespeople.
that have
technicians.
wanted
Yep.
to be these great leaders, that have wanted to, and frankly, they have a hard time understanding why is it that I have such a hard time getting people to follow me. I'm thinking they ask that question. My guess is they probably don't, because they probably lack a tremendous amount of self-awareness. Number one, which comes with having a gigantic ego. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a big ego. I don't think there's. Hear me. I think a big ego is great. Kevin has a big ego. As long as it's balanced with humility. I think big ego is just a will to succeed. Like, it's just a will to succeed. And as long as it's balanced with this humility, this ability to be able to be a student, to really be able to understand that I'm going to need others to succeed. So again, I'll open it up to you, Amanda, because when I think of humility, I think of curiosity, and I think you are. I'm going to give it up to you. I think you're a perfect example of this.
Oh, thank you.
So how have you always been able to maintain? Because you've had a lot of success.
Thank you again.
And you're only starting. It's continuing to succeed. Yet you have this innate ability to be humble. This innate ability to always want to be curious.
Wow. Great question. I'm on the spot. I am a small cog in a big machine.
That's humility, Ray.
I think
that's humility. That, and by the way, that's a mindset. Period. Even though you're up on stage in Vegas, you're the one that everybody's cheering on, right? You're now doing a podcast.
You know, I have always been very intentional about making sure that I understand how our business works, and I learn more all the time. All businesses are complicated, and if you don't think that, you probably need to learn a little bit more about it, right? Like, I find that there are so many nuances in our business, and there are so many things that have to be done right for us to get equipment in a client's home, right? Bringing it back to HVAC. There are so many steps along the way that have to happen correctly. So many handoffs that have to be done right for us to get to the finish line of equipment in a client's home. When you acknowledge that you are one piece of a very complicated handoff, it's humbling in itself. And so you want to make sure that I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can as my part of the handoff to do it really, really well. And in addition, how can I help influence the other parts of that handoff? How can I be a positive contribution to every other part of that handoff? When you remember that you're a small part and I have to control what I can control, it's humbling in itself to remember I'm one person. The Followship, I think, is a critical piece of that, making sure that you can expand that net of influence then to more people and influencing everyone that you can as positively as possible. I don't do a line dance on stage just
Quite
for
well,
the thrill of it.
Quite
Thank
well,
you.
by the way. You kind of blew me away.
But
Go ahead.
I love the idea, though, that I'm bringing joy to people who really, they're the one who bring the bacon home, right? Like, they're the ones that are really putting out the effort and putting in the hard work. So if I can bring some joy by doing that, I'm going to do that happily.
Yes. For those of you listening, Amanda did a line dance with, I think it was me up there with her. I don't know if you can call it a line dance that I did. She did the line dance in Nashville at the GOAT Awards, and she killed it, of course. I thank goodness she was on point, because I had messed up and I had to get caught back up with her. And thank goodness she was on point and doing it right. So she helped me along as well. So you were bringing joy to a lot of people in the audience.
Yeah.
You were saving my butt. So thank you. Thank you.
Does that mean he was out of line?
No, he was great. He did great.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. That's probably, sorry, just to tie in, that's probably servant leadership that we talk about a lot when it comes to building a Followship.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. So I think one of the things I want to kind of switch to is the battle that I think managers have with perfection versus progress. You said it a little bit, Amanda, with Stephanie and you having to be patient with her. But I guarantee you were looking for progress.
Yes.
But if you expected perfection, you were going to fall into what we call the gap.
Yeah. It's the enemy of happiness.
Yeah. And if you're a manager that expects perfection and you're always measuring people, even though they are continuing to develop, you're always measuring them by this ideal that we naturally create in our brain that always is moving forward. I'm going to give a quick little explanation of it. If I'm starting here and I'm on a diet and I lose 40 pounds, my mind automatically goes to, gosh, I want to lose another 50 pounds. Even though you've lost the 40, your mind will always create a new ideal. It always does. And so it's this extra 50 pounds or extra 20 pounds, whatever, the additional weight that you want to lose is a horizon. It's this ideal that's constantly moving out. It's like being in the desert and you look out to the horizon, you start walking towards the horizon, you could never reach it. So if you have the ability to be able to say, okay, I was here, I weighed this, I then lost 40 pounds. If you have an ability to be able to look backwards, to measure backwards, which we've talked about on past episodes, it's just so important for managers to understand this concept and leaders to understand this concept in order to build this followship that your people have to see that you are a measure backwards type of person, that you do appreciate what they have done, what they have accomplished, versus they bring to you, hey, I did this. I achieved the goal of 30 MVPs this month over the phone. Great. What are you going to do for me this month? Like, now I need to set the goal even higher for you, which resetting goals is a good thing. It's a good thing. Yet if you're constantly berating your people and you're not acknowledging them for what they have, the progress they have made, forget about Followship. It's out the window. I'm going to lay that out there and see if anything resonates with the two of you.
Perfect is the enemy of great. It's something that I live by, that I quote.
Perfect is the enemy of great.
Perfect is the enemy of great, because I see it, and it's something, gosh, goes way back. Even I remember your wife years ago. I'm going to talk about your wife. Years ago, I was struggling with writing, and getting, I was going to write a memo or a process, and I was going to make it perfect. So I couldn't get started. I never could get started. I'd look at the screen and stare at it for hours because I was thinking in my mind, before I write, it had to be perfect. And when she said, you remember this, she said, just start writing. Let it flow, let it go, and changed my life. And I teach that now. When I'm with the text just yesterday or Wednesday, teaching them to write their script, and I see it in them. I see me in them. And I see them sitting there looking at the piece of paper and their form they use, and they're got their pen in their hand, and they're thinking. And I walk up to them. I said, "Just start writing. You can always clean it up, fix it, edit it. Just start writing." And they do, and they've done some great stuff. They write better script sometimes than we do. So just let it go. Just let it go. Yep.
Alert! 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 This is important. In order to build Followship, this understanding that your people, especially your top performers, will always be harder on themselves than you need to be. So if you're a leader and you've got top performers, there is never any reason to beat them up, to berate them. Because guess who's doing all the beating up themselves? They are.
There.
If they're a top performer, guaranteed. Do you need to check in with them? Especially if they're off target? Do you need to set expectations for them? For sure. We had a podcast just a couple of weeks ago with Dana Barnes. Wow. After you're done listening to this one, go to that Dana Barnes one. It's so good. That Dana Barnes podcast. The six-time GOAT award winner. By the way, we've only had 4 years of GOATs. He's won 6 times in 6 different categories. So he's a 6-time GOAT award winner out of Abacus. Dana Barnes says this quote, and I wrote it down because it was so impactful for me that I wanted to make sure I got it on this podcast. He said, great performers love to be held accountable. Great performers love to be held accountable. They love it. So there's nothing wrong with it. They want it from managers. And he said on the podcast, sure, I got a little nervous when I knew the goal was set and there was a little fear. But once you accomplish it that one time, it feels good. Then you set the goal a little higher and you achieve a little more and you accomplish it again. It feels even better. He's like, and then it gets addictive. Then it gets addictive. But if your manager, if your team member is off target, say a high performer, do you need to berate him, Ray?
No, you're funny. When you're talking, all I can think about a few salespeople we have that have been with us for a long time. And I know you probably know some of them I'm talking about, where so many times I had to talk them off a cliff. I mean, they were talking themselves into, and they're great performers. They probably just had an incredible, $1 million month, or something, or year, and a new year or a new month is starting, a new quarter is starting, and you're listening to their words, and you'd think they'd never had success. You'd think the words coming out of their mouth were defeating. I can't do this. Well, wait a minute. So I had to remind them, you've been doing it for not just last year, 10 years, 15 years. And and I don't know, I'm not sure what causes that. Maybe it's some complacency or something, but you have to.
I know what it is. It's the gap.
It's the gap.
They fall, because I fall into it.
Sure.
I fall into it.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, I would say that is a perfect example of that, of the gap, the perfection somebody's looking for, the moving into a bigger home, a beautiful home, and they just moved out of a condo, and they're in this beautiful home, and immediately they move in. They've never had a home like this, and what's the first thing out of their mouth? I hate this house. It doesn't face the right way. It doesn't. Wait a minute, you forgot. You came from a little condo to this big beautiful home on a hill. So it's a wonderful concept.
Yeah. And again, it's a great book written concept by Dan Sullivan called The Gap and the Gain. Hardy wrote it. Darren Hardy wrote a book with him called The Gap and the Gain. So if you want more information, wow, it's how you focus on staying in the gain, which is really just a concept we've talked about on a previous podcast, measuring backwards. Make sure if you move into that beautiful home, you're now not critiquing all the bad things about that home. You're measuring backwards from where you used to live in that apartment and you've moved now into this beautiful home. And because naturally we want to critique, and it again, that goal, our minds set it out there. So yeah.
I think that if we say that top performers are going to be hardest on themselves, what that reminds me of is what we talked about in the courage episode. We want top performers and we want leaders to have courage, which we defined as do hard things, make big decisions, and leave things better than they found them. So I think as leaders of other leaders and of top performers, the best thing we can do is support them when they do those things. Because there will be mistakes along the way, but when they do hard things, how can I help you with that? How can I help make this easier? How can I remove barriers for you? When they make big decisions, if they bet on themselves, how can I support them through that? How can I make sure that they know it's going to be okay if they mess up? leave things better than they found them? How can I hold their hand through this? How can I lead by example? How can I show them that I am in support of those actions?
That's good. Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's great if you have read anything about John Wooden. His belief was that the way you create Followship, the way you get people to run through a wall for you, is to make sure you're catching people doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're saying, Amanda, if they do make a big decision, gosh, acknowledge them for it. They make a little decision, acknowledge them for it. Find the good. Find where they're doing well, whether it's your children or it's your team members. And the ratio that John Wooden, the great basketball coach with the UCLA Bruins, who won 10 consecutive NCAA championships in a row, is 4-1. The ratio is 4-1. Find 4 good things. If you're finding a bad thing, make sure you're keeping yourself in line with finding 4 good things. So catch people doing something right. You want to have people run through a wall for you? Whew. Catch them doing things right. Catch them doing things right.
And that falls right into a one-on-one you're having with a teammate. If I have a challenge that I have to go over with somebody, I want them to know that they've done many things right in their career with me, that the company, that they've been a great performer, that here's all the wonderful things you've done. Here's a challenge I need to handle with you, and then give them the confidence that I feel that they're going to go out and correct. If it's sports, if it's work, if it's family, it works for all. Start doing it. When we talk to a client, start with what's going on well. It just starts any conversation in a positive, and then work gets done. So.
Ray, one of the things, great point in what you're just talking about, one thing I've gotten from John Wooden was when he would have a basketball player in the middle of a game, or actually after the game, he talked about he never attacked the player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why could you do that? Why did you do this? He always attacked the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never go after the player. And it's such a, and he talked about the same thing with his kids. You never attack the person. You always attack their behavior. Like, son, how could you spill that milk after, or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't berate the person ever.
Right.
You get very specific about the behavior. And it's so easy as managers and as parents, when we're emotional, to attack the person.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to be cognizant of the damage that we're doing. Go after behavior versus the person.
And I'll take it away from sports again.
Yeah.
And say in real life, it's what I teach managers is make sure the conversations aren't personal. They're not you. If you're having a challenge with somebody, it's not personal. We all signed up for it. It was just a joke around here about my wife telling me I signed up for it. So my wife, I get upset with my wife. She says, "Hey, you signed up for it," and I use it on her too.
Yeah.
So do the same with your teammates. When there's a challenge, there's our core values, our pay plans, whatever it is. Go to them. Go to the process. Go and have a discussion around the process that we all agreed to follow, versus I'm making you do this process, or we're arguing about you not following a process. No, we all agreed to this. This is our playbook. This is what we agreed to. This is our play. Wow. So let's just agree to that. And it's not personal now. It's not me and you having an argument about a process. It's we agreed to this process. You want to change the process? Let's have a conversation about changing it. But this is the process. So
wow. I see how you are. Wait till the very end for that black swan. Go to the process and no longer make it personal. Right. I see.
Right. Well, you did the sports thing, and I bring it back to the business. Good.
Let me tell you, that's a biggie. That's a biggie, everybody. I hope everybody got that. Blame it on the process. Blame it on the core values. Mm-hmm. Blame it on something in the handbook versus making it personal between me and the team member when you do have to have those crucial conversations.
And you will.
And you will.
Huh.
And when it's done, the fellowship that you created, if you leave them with dignity throughout the entire process.
I still want my relationship with that person. There's a challenge we got to work out, but I want to keep the relationship. It's all about the relationship. We know that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, I think we're ready to wrap up.
Yeah, I'd love to tie a bow on this series. We've been talking about the 3 talents of exceptional leadership, and I'd love to have some real concrete takeaways at the end of this episode.
I love that.
So starting with have courage, what's something that I can do today? What is one action that I can take today to have and develop my courage? Kevin, to you.
Jump in a 46-degree cold plunge.
Love that.
Do hard things.
Do something that scares you.
Do something that scares you.
Okay.
And in work, be the one that volunteers to role practice.
Right. What about you?
What is that thing that you fear the most? What is it? What is it? A conversation? Is it a process? Is it having to call? Is it making calls to clients that you have a challenge with? Whatever it is, you got to face that fear. You got to jump in there, and it's going to hurt. But the more times I do it, it will hurt less.
I love that. Yeah. Find the thing that you've been avoiding from fear and do it today.
Yep.
Great.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. All right. What can I do today to take responsibility? What's the action that I can take?
I would say if you're in a leadership position today, take a real hard look at yourself. And are you taking this leadership thing as a responsibility and a calling to serve others? Or are you taking it as a reward? Like, I want to do this because I'm going to get rewarded. I'm going to make these bonuses. And if your focus is on the reward thing, you really need to decide whether you want to be a leader of others or you may want to be an individual contributor. And by the way, the organization needs both. So if you're a great core value fit, the beautiful thing is there's a spot for you. Definitely. Ray?
I would just think about, I love what Kevin just said, so I add on to that. Act as if. Look at myself on how I make decisions. What am I basing them on? And am I taking responsibility for my center, my teammates? Am I making decisions as if it's my money? It's not somebody else's money. It's mine. This is my ship. I'm responsible for it. Yeah.
Okay, self-assessment then is what I heard. Self-assessment. Identify where I am placing blame and how can I take responsibility. Great. What can I do today to build Followship? What's the action that I can take?
I would think the first thing I think about is it truly from my heart. And we talked a lot of strategies today, a lot of discussion around all these things we can do and how we can talk and structure things. But for me, it's all about what's in my heart. So a self-check on myself as a manager or leader. Kevin talked about reward and all that. It's from my heart. Am I doing this because I really love to do it and serve other people? Because my success is a direct reflection how well I am helping other people. I told Kevin stories many times about always wanting my son, and we talked about Scott Dick, a young senior tech that wanted always to beat my records, and I wasn't intimidated by that. I said, "Let's go." I want my son to do better than me. I want my teammates to do better than I ever done, and many of them have. My son certainly has, way beyond where I was at his age. So that that's my passion, making sure the people around me, the people I influence, are doing better than I ever did.
Find joy in service. I love it. Kevin?
Take the spotlight off you. Be intentional with learning to become a great listener. Be intentional with learning to be a great person that asks questions, even when you know the answer.
Ask great questions. And if I may tag on the end here, what you can do right now, go into teams, find your top performers, and show them some love. It'll go a long way.
That's so good. Well, we're at a wrap. we're wrapping up this series. First thing I want to do, I want to thank Andrew Zaragoza. He's our producer. He's behind the equipment. Thank you, Andrew, for all you do. You make this so easy for us. I also want to thank Ray Diaz. What a gift to have you here on such a important topic, such a relevant topic for all of us inside of Wrench, such a relevant topic for all of those that want to continue to grow in the organization. And then, of course, my co-host, Amanda Meyer. She's the glue who holds this all together, Ray. She's, just so you know, she lifts me up. She keeps this podcast fresh. And many people are sending me notes, the job that she is doing. So thank you, Amanda, for all that you do.
Thank you, Kevin.
So what a series it's been. Amanda just wrapped it up beautifully. This is the end of part 3, which is Build Followship. I would encourage you, if you are just wrapping up and this is the only one you've listened to, I would encourage you to go back and listen to part 2, which is Take Responsibility, and then go back and listen to part 1, which is Have Courage, because these three these 3 talents are musts and non-negotiables for exceptional leaders that want to continue to develop themselves inside growing organizations. So going back and listening to these is really just about constantly wanting to make yourself better, constantly grow, and make your future bigger than your past. And that's all we want, is for all of you to make your future bigger than your past. So as I end every podcast, and especially this 3-part series, which is a powerful one, here's to a bigger future. Thank you very much.